So imposter syndrome, right? What a bitch. And before we dive into that, I just want to say that if there are awkward pauses or cuts in my dialogue, it's because there's a guy doing construction. So, something that we don't really talk about enough as autistics is what it feels like. Even so, obviously, I'm coming at this from my experience as a diagnosed autistic person. So, if you're a self realized autistic person, like you still will have an experience here. And I'm going to hope that maybe you'll leave some comments down below with your experience because I don't really want to touch on that now that my experience is a little bit different. But even though I've been assessed, I still have like daily moments of, oh, I'm not really autistic. Especially when people leave absolutely outrageous comments. Like, I had a real doozy this morning. This person just popped off like 3 paragraphs of how I'm not autistic. And then the other day, I had somebody remark on the fact that I made it as far in life as I did without a diagnosis, so I can't really be autistic because you can't go back in time and look at yourself when you were little, and there aren't people who know you from that time in your life who could have been asked. And it's like, how could you possibly have gotten an assessment that way? And there's a lot of like misconceptions and a lot of things that people who haven't been assessed maybe don't know about what actually goes into getting assessed. It's not like I just went in and was like, okay, and like in 15 minutes they handed me my diagnosis. Like, I actually did a video on it, so if you haven't seen the video, definitely give that a watch. I'll have it linked somewhere. But it's a very lengthy process. And the thing is because we have masked, like, typically the people who make it really far in life are very high masking and considered lower support needs of varying degrees because it is a spectrum. So I'm not sure how much of that I left in, but I will tell you that on days when I'm not sure that I'm actually autistic, I really should like go back and watch unedited footage where I just there's just this guy doing construction, and it's such a perfect time for it honestly to be happening in a video where I'm discussing this kind of an issue, because though I can do the song and dance and I can pretend that I am normal, albeit maybe a little quirky. Normal also. Whatever. Moments like this snap me right back to reality when I remember how hard it is for me to actually just power through and to actually not struggle. And when I'm aware of there being sounds, like my husband in the shower, coughing. Can you guys hear that? Like my neighbor sawing a table or whatever. Can you hear that? Like that kind of thing. It's constantly playing in my mind. And I have this expectation that you guys will somehow care as much as I do. And it is not caring in the sense that, oh, it just bothers me a little bit. Like, it causes sensations in my body that I can't explain in such a way. So when I have these moments of like, oh, I'm not really that autistic, I also really hate it when people say that. Just that's a personal like of mine, is when people are like, oh, you're not that autistic, or it's like as if that's somehow how this works. Because if you were unaware, like autism isn't like a linear line of like kind of autistic to like super autistic, right? It's not that kind of a thing. It's more of like a chart, and you will have varying degrees of sensitivities or different needs, like support needs in certain areas. Like you will be more impacted in different areas. So for example, like my ability to communicate isn't as impacted, although sometimes it is, as different social scenarios, or my ability to withstand certain like textures or tastes or smells or any sensory input, that kind of thing. So that's not what this video is supposed to be about. It was supposed to be more about like the experience of what it actually feels like when people come at you and they tell you that you're not autistic enough, like you're not this enough to be autistic, or you can't say that you're autistic because da 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 da. And it's like, I know that there's a lot of ignorance and a lot of just misinformation, and also a lot of content creators out there putting like a funny, very cringy in my opinion, spin on it, where they're using it as a joke, or they're using it as something funny, which is very like detrimental to our entire community and this whole thing. We don't need to get into that, because I know there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of like from people on these kinds of topics, and I definitely don't want to stir the pot. That's not why we're here. We're just here to talk about like my experience and what it's like. But I definitely do have these moments. So you guys will see a portion of me on the internet. Here you're going to see a lot more. I definitely come at it more from the like, yeah, I'm so like loud and proud and this is what I'm doing and I am autistic and pushing it in everybody's face and setting my own narrative and like this kind of a thing. But the reality is that I don't really bring this up. Like when I'm having struggles, I really try not to pain my friends with it. I try not to bother family with it. I try not to I try not to be difficult. I very often find out after the fact that even though I've tried, I still am being difficult. But that's a whole other discussion. I think the most important thing that you can do if you are somebody who is struggling with this feeling of not being autistic enough. I really hate saying it like that, but that's what the feeling is. I feel like sometimes, well, I'm not doing things this way, so I'm not valid, or I don't have this, so I'm not this. And even before I was diagnosed, I think the whole point that we are missing here, we may be missing, it's like, for me anyways, was that what I need is the accommodations. That's what I need. What I need is the ways to make my life a little bit easier. And so what the label does is it allows me sort of access to myself, okay, where I can look and say like, all right, so this is like a known thing for other people who were like me. Maybe there's something here that I can try. It allows me to find community and find from people, like every time you guys leave, like I read all the comments. I may not be able to respond to all of them, but I am reading every single comment you guys leave. And from that, like I am taking things from it. I'm saying like, oh, hey, that's an interesting thought that you brought up. Like maybe I'm going to think on that. Maybe that's something I could apply to my life. Or like, hey, that's an interesting tool that you've recommended. Maybe I'll check that out. Like this is the whole point of it, is that we have a need and together we can find ways to fill these needs or to find assistance or to make our lives better. And I think that when it comes down to it, when you're having this moment of like, oh my God, I am so not this, or it's all a lie, or I'm just faking it. Like I said this once in a video, but like the non-autistic folk are not out here trying to make all of these discoveries about themselves to better make their lives make sense. That was a very strange sentence, but you hopefully understand what I'm saying. They're not out here having these kinds of moments, okay? Like if you are out here and you're resonating with all my stuff and you're like, well, I'm not autistic. I'm not saying that you are, but I'm saying if you're like, well, that made sense and that made sense and this made sense, I've got resources down there. There's a site you can go to that can give you some a bit more of a scientific, more detailed look into autism and all of these things. There's some quizzes and things that you can look into as well. And I've got a playlist linked somewhere. You'll find it, I'm sure. Just know, like, this is not about being more or less autistic or feeling like you are or you aren't. If you are using tools and your life is improving, that's the important thing here. So I do experience it. So often it's brutal. I'll just be out in my day-to-day, or I'll be having what I would call like a good day. And sometimes my good days aren't actually good days. It's actually it's sort of like being in the eye of the storm or the calm before the storm, where I'll have like a day where I don't really need my tools as much. And usually now I know this for myself. This is very important. I'll know this for myself and I'll say like, well, hang on. Do you though? Because you aren't going to just spontaneously get better from being autistic. That's not something that's just going to happen. Like you're going to use your tools. You might recover from your burnout. You might, right, and things might lessen. You might have better ways of adapting. But realistically, the stuff that bothers you is still going to bother you. The stuff that causes you problems is still going to cause you problems. It just might be how you handle them or what tools you use to deal with them, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? But if I'm having like a good day where I didn't feel like I needed the earplugs on the walk, or I didn't feel like I needed to wear the gloves when I folded the laundry, which almost never happens. That's usually a huge red flag. Like, okay, what's happening? Are you going to have a problem? Because like, okay. But it doesn't mean that it's just gone away. But sometimes I'll have like a taste of what I think the allistic folk or kind of the non-autistic folk are experiencing. And I'll say to myself, like, oh, boy, I wish that could be me. And I hate to say that because I would never want to be anybody but myself. I have had a rough couple of years though, and I know that we all have. This is my experience, obviously, right? So, and I've thought like sometimes it would be so nice to just not be caused so much pain by the things that do cause me discomfort. Like I made a funny video on a short. I post shorts as well if you didn't know. They're around somewhere. Go check out my shorts. But I post a short being like, oh, the things that you don't hear that I do. And the thing is like I was trying to be kind of cutesy and funny in it. But these things that I hear that you don't, like, you probably do if you're watching this, honestly, but like for example, Eric might not hear things that your brain doesn't filter it out, right? And it causes me physical discomfort and other symptoms. Like all of a sudden I'll be anxious for God knows what reason. I know why, but nobody else can feel like, why are you so mean? Like, why are you so agitated right now? It's because something is burrowing into my brain. Okay. It's like an ice pick into my, like, okay. I can hear things that you can't hear, and it's awful. It's awful. It's not pleasant. So that's why you use your tools. A lot of people are like, oh, why are you wearing headphones? Like, also, sometimes the pressure can be too much on my head. This is turning into like a really crazy, like all over the place kind of a thing. But really, the imposter syndrome is what feeds and fuels so much of even this conversation, where I feel like I need to justify my experience by saying, well, no, this is why I do these things, and this is... You don't have to justify anything to anybody. You don't have to justify it to yourself either. And a lot of these things that you think are you feeling like you're cheating the system or you're faking it or whatever, are actually that, I forget what it's called now, but there's this phenomenon that autistic people often experience where we feel like we're being watched constantly. And I didn't know that was a thing. So I felt like, well, I'm doing these like... Again, I hate saying it like this, these super autistic things, because this is not, but this is just for the, anecdotal kind of side of it, the storytelling side of it. Think spectrum, okay? But like, I'm doing these things in private because somebody is watching me. And it's like, friend, you are not that interesting, okay? Your neighbors aren't spying on you through a little hole in your mirror, okay? Like, I have other things as well. I don't know if I should have like a list of all of the, issues that I have. I also deal with OCD, and that is a very difficult, I really don't like that one. It's really not good, and it really makes my life. Additionally, I know a lot of autistic folk also experience the OCD. It sucks. Like, if there was one thing about me I could just stand to lose, it would be that. Please. I can't cope. It's the actual worst. I really hate it so much. Anyways, so this was just my kind of way of saying like, hey, I see you. And I know that the struggle is real. I would love to dive into this in a more specific way. So we've gotten the ball rolling with this video. If you have like a specific scenario you'd like me to touch on, like how would I, in my mind, how would I handle this? I can also reply in short form as well if that's, we don't want to make a full video on something, but you want me to touch on something briefly. We're kind of exploring. This is a whole new thing for me, this kind of a channel. So let's keep the conversation going. You guys have been amazing leaving comments. I can't tell you what that means to me to read, because it does for me what my videos are doing for you. You guys leaving comments is doing that same thing for me. You guys are telling me that I'm helping you, but you guys telling me that I'm helping is like... Okay? Next level. I am so grateful to have this opportunity to talk with you guys and reach you guys and have a way for you to reach me in return is just insane. I just want to thank you guys again so much for being here. I appreciate you more than you will ever know, and I see the struggle. I do. I don't give up on yourself, okay? You are going to get through this, and in each of those moments, just remember that the ultimate goal is that you feel better, is that your existence matters to you, and that your experience on this earth, okay, it feels good, and that you're doing what you need to do for you. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave it. I love you guys, and I look forward to catching you all again in my next video. Happy stimming! I thought you guys loved that, and I love it too. Happy stimming! So if you don't know, my outro on my other channel is happy swimming, so that's why everybody's having like a happy stimming, but I think it's so cute, okay? So happy stimming, and we'll see you next time. Bye!